He looks at you, calm, aware, present, but there is no recognition in his eyes, no warmth of memory, no trace of familiarity. He remembers his teachers, his friends, his neighbors, even distant relatives, but not you, not the person who raised him, not the voice he heard every day, not the face that stood beside him through his entire life. Now imagine this is not emotional distance, not rebellion, not choice, but neurological reality. A world where your son forgets only you, while remembering everyone else perfectly. The moment begins quietly, a simple conversation, a familiar room, a normal day. You say his name, he responds. You smile. He hesitates. There is confusion in his expression, not fear, not panic, just absence. He recognizes the room, the objects, the timeline of his life. But when he looks at you, his brain finds nothing to retrieve. No stored identity, no emotional imprint, no relational memory. Medically, this scenario is not entirely fictional. Human memory is not stored as a single file. It is distributed across neural networks. Its faces are processed in specialized regions. Emotional bonding is encoded differently than factual memory. Identity recognition relies heavily on complex brain structures that connect memory, emotion, and perception. If a disruption occurs in these pathways, selective memory loss can emerge. Not total amnesia, but targeted absence. There are documented neurological conditions where patients fail to recognize close family members while identifying strangers normally. The brain does not forget everything. It forgets specific emotional anchors. Now imagine this happening in a fully conscious mind. Minutes after the change, the psychological shock begins. For you, not for him, because from his perspective, nothing feels missing. His world is intact. His memories are complete, except for one erased identity. Yours, hours pass. You show photographs, family videos, shared moments. He watches them carefully. He understands the evidence. He accepts the logic. But emotionally, the connection does not return. To him, you are a documented figure, not a remembered presence. This is where the emotional and neurological divide becomes devastating. Memory is not just information. It is emotional association. Without emotional encoding, facts remain hollow. You can prove you are his parent, but you cannot force his brain to feel it. Days later, the global implications begin to surface. If such a phenomenon became widespread, scientists would immediately study the hippocampus, the amygdala, and facial recognition pathways. Neurologists would classify it as selective autobiographical relational amnesia, a condition where personal identity links are erased while general memory remains intact. Governments would take interest quickly, because memory defines legal responsibility, inheritance, family structures, guardianship laws. If a child remembers society, but not their parent, what defines the relationship legally? Biology or memory? Weeks pass. Psychological consequences deepen. You begin reliving every moment in your mind, searching for a cause, an event, a trigger, a hidden explanation. But neuroscience suggests something more unsettling. The brain does not erase randomly. It protects itself under certain forms of trauma, neurological damage, or extreme emotional overload. Sometimes the mind isolates specific emotional nodes, not out of malice, but out of neurological survival. Meanwhile, your son continues his life normally. He laughs, learns, communicates, builds relationships. It's just not with you. You exist in his life as a stranger with documented history. Months later, adaptation begins. You speak to him differently, more formally, more cautiously. You introduce yourself repeatedly, not as a parent demanding recognition, but as a person rebuilding identity from zero. This creates a profound psychological paradox. Can a relationship exist without memory? Or must it be rebuilt through experience alone? Historically, cases of selective memory loss have shown that emotional bonds can sometimes be reformed through repeated positive interactions, not through proof, not through pressure, but through new experiences that create fresh neural associations. Years pass, the timeline shifts from loss to reconstruction. You celebrate new milestones with him, new conversations, new shared moments, each one attempting to create what once existed naturally. But something fundamental remains different. because the past is no longer shared in his mind, only in yours. Socially, this phenomenon would challenge humanity's understanding of identity itself. Are we defined by memories of people, or by present interactions with them? If someone forgets you completely, yet chooses to trust you again over time, is that bond weaker or stronger? Technologically, future neuroscience might attempt memory restoration, brain stimulation, neural pathway reconstruction, targeted memory reactivation therapies. But memory recovery is not guaranteed, because memories are not stored like files. They are reconstructed patterns, fragile, dynamic, emotionally encoded. Decades into such a reality, a darker realization would emerge. Forgetting a parent while remembering the world may not be the greatest loss. The greatest loss is asymmetry. You remember every moment. He remembers none of them. Carry the full emotional history. He carries a blank space where you should exist. Yet life continues, and slowly a new relationship may form. It's not based on past memories, but on present experience. He learns who you are again, not as the parent from his childhood, but as a person who stays, who shows up, who remains consistent despite being forgotten. This creates an unexpected philosophical shift. Love, in this scenario, is no longer validated by memory. It is validated by persistence, by action, by presence without recognition. In the long-term future, scientists and philosophers would study such cases deeply. They would ask whether memory is the foundation of human bonds, whether bonds can exist independently of memory. Because if someone can forget your entire shared past and still choose to trust you again, then perhaps connection is not only stored in the brain, but rebuilt through time, through patience, through repeated moments of care. In the end, the situation reveals a profound truth about human identity. Memories shape relationships, but they do not always define their future. A forgotten past does not automatically erase the possibility of a new bond. Yet the emotional weight remains unequal. One heart remembers everything. The other begins from nothing. The quiet question lingers in the silence of every interaction. If the person you love forgets your entire existence, it slowly learns to care about you again. Is that a second chance at the same relationship?
Yes.
Or the beginning of an entirely new one?